Who was the most dangerous person at your school? Sunshine was the kind of person who could make you smile even when you felt like crying. We called her Sunshine because of her bright yellow cardigans that made her seem like hope in human form. When Travis Vaughn was tearing into a freshman for wearing knockoff Jordans, Sunshine simply walked up and said, "Your hair looks great today, Travis. Did you try something new?" The 6'2" wrestler froze mid-rant, confused, while the freshman slipped away. Her younger sister Eden was a quiet, anxious freshman. Around Sunshine, though, she could breathe easier. We thought we were watching a protective older sister. We didn't realize we were watching someone keeping another person alive. Then spring break of senior year changed everything. On the first day back, Sunshine showed up in all black. Not the styled goth kind, but clothes that looked like she had just grabbed the darkest things from her closet. She sat at the back of English, instead of her usual front row seat. Mrs. Carver asked her 3 times about her spring break, but Sunshine just stared at the wall. At lunch, instead of making her usual rounds offering kind words, she sat alone outside on the bleachers. That was when she started talking to me. Estit had a quiet crush on her since 8th grade, the kind where you rehearse conversations that never happen. One day she said, out of nowhere, "You stiff always been decent, Caleb. You never joined in." Joined in what? I asked, though my stomach already knew bad news was coming. She told me everything in a flat, mechanical voice. How a group of students had catfished Eden for 3 months. They invented a fake boyfriend, Cole from Cherry Blossom High, someone who understood her anxiety, who told her she was beautiful, who stayed up texting her through panic attacks. Eden fell for it. She sent him voice messages when she was crying. She sent photos where she was genuinely smiling. They even had him say, "I love you" first. Eden said it back, and meant it. They told her to wait outside the winter formal for 4 hours. Sunshine stood there in her dress with fists clenched, watching from the cold as they filmed her sister from the gym windows. Everyone at the dance knew bets were being placed on how long Eden would wait. I dreamed about Sunshine opening up to me for 3 years, but not like this. Then they projected everything. Her messages, her pain, her words about being ugly and wanting to die, and how Cole was the only reason she hadn't. The entire school saw it. Everyone knew what was happening. Sunshine went on. Everyone she had been kind to for 3 years had watched her sister suffer for entertainment and said nothing. My throat burned. I wanted to say I didn't know, but it felt like it no longer mattered. Then she grabbed my hand. Her green eyes glimmered in a way that still gave me butterflies. "I need you to do something for me. Next Thursday, keep your siblings home. Say you citral sick, food poisoning, whatever." Sunshine, what are you? I sept going to make everyone regret what they did to Eden. The way she said regret made my skin crawl. It's sep's never going to happen again. She kept talking, trusting me with details I didn't want to hear. How she knew exactly who was involved. How Thursday was the spring pep rally when the whole school would be together. My hands were sweating, but hers stayed ice cold. "You sep's the only one I trust," she said, squeezing my hand tighter. "The only one who sep's ever been kind without expecting something back. So I sep'n warning you, keep the people you care about at home." I went home that night and threw up. The next morning, I watched Sunshine walk past the kids who'd hurt Eden. She smiled, not her usual bright smile, but something dark, like she was planning something. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, knowing I was the only one who could stop this. At 6 a.m., I called the school administrator. He thanked me and hung up. When I arrived at school, Sunshine wasn't anywhere. I kept refreshing news sites to see if she'd been arrested. Nothing. I was in 3rd period when I got a text from an unknown number. "Get out." That's when the intercom came on. Lockdown, lockdown, this is not a drill. The alarm blared. My English teacher dropped her book, locked the door with shaking hands, and yanked the shade down. Students scrambled away from the windows, pushing desks, trying to get to the back corner. My legs felt heavy. This felt like my fault. Half the class was already crying. I moved with them, trying to stay quiet. My phone buzzed. 12 texts from people asking what was happening, whether it was real. I stayed silent. The teacher was counting heads, telling everyone to silence their phones. She kept glancing at the door, as if expecting someone to try the handle. More phones lit up. I texted my younger brother in sophomore English on the other side of the building. Stay down, do exactly as your teacher says. He replied that his class was panicking because they'd heard footsteps running past their door. I wanted to tell him it would be okay, but I couldn't lie, not when Sunshine was somewhere in the building. Through the small window in our classroom door, I saw 2 police officers pass by, hands on their weapons, moving fast and checking doors. That's when it hit me. This was real. People might get hurt. The girl next to me grabbed my arm, shaking hard. My phone lit up again with another text from that unknown number. My hands went clammy. She sips not after you, it read. Just the guilty ones who hurt Eden. Sunshine had given someone my number to keep me updated. She wasn't acting alone. That made everything scarier. The principal's voice came back on the intercom, now shaky. He told students and staff to stay secured and follow lockdown procedures. Someone whispered there was a girl with a weapon, but I knew Sunshine's weapons weren't what they were imagining. She didn't need a gun or knife to destroy lives. 20 minutes passed in silence, except for sobbing and heavy breathing. Then we heard shouting in the hallway and the sound of something being dragged. The girl beside me dropped her phone. The noise made everyone jump. The teacher signaled for silence. My phone vibrated with a notification. My blood went cold. A mass email had gone out to the whole school with the subject line, "What you did to Eden?" I opened it with shaking hands. Kids around me opened it too, despite the teacher's warnings. It was full of screenshots from group chats, planning the catfishing, videos of Eden waiting outside the winter formal in her dress, a list of everyone who had participated or watched without helping. Whispers filled the room as names were recognized. Popular kids, student council members, even teachers who had seen Eden crying and did nothing. One girl near me sobbed when she saw her boyfriend's name on the list, alongside screenshots of him laughing about the pathetic freshman who thought someone could love her. More evidence kept appearing, as if someone were adding to the email in real time, recordings of phone calls, saved Snapchats, and texts spanning 3 months. Sunshine had been collecting proof for weeks. We heard a police radio through the walls. Bianca Rubin's voice said they'd traced the email to the media lab on the 2nd floor, just one hallway from where Eden had her worst classes, where kids used to corner her. The girl next to me dug her nails into my arm. I didn't pull away. Everyone needed something to hold on to. Another notification appeared. This time, it showed Eden's private messages to Cole, where she said she wanted to harm herself, that he was the only good thing in her life. Photos appeared too. Someone had taken them from the gym windows of Eden waiting in her blue dress as snow started falling. The timestamp 4 hours and 13 minutes. More files loaded, emails between administrators discussing Eden Sepp's situation and deciding not to act because it would cause disruption. One from the vice principal said kids should work it out themselves. I scrolled and saw Travis Vaughn's name repeatedly. He'd bragged in group chats about writing the fake love letters, convincing enough to make Eden believe someone could actually care about her. The same Travis that Sunshine once calmed down with kind words turned out to be one of the main people hurting her sister. He even posted laughing emojis next to screenshots of Eden crying at her locker. My phone buzzed. My mom was calling, but I couldn't answer during a lockdown. She texted right after, asking if I was okay. The news was already reporting something happening at our school. I replied that I was safe, but my hands were shaking because I couldn't tell her I knew this was coming and had tried to stop it. Through the noise and crying in our room, someone shouted in the hallway. The voice mentioned visual confirmation and black clothing heading toward the gym. That had to be Sunshine, trying to reach the pep rally location, the very place she had planned to expose everyone. A kid next to me showed me a live stream from another classroom. Through the small window on their door, police officers were running past. Comments were flooding in. Students from other schools wrote that we deserved whatever happened because of what we did to Eden. Some were calling Sunshine a hero. Others said she'd gone too far. But everyone agreed Eden didn't deserve what happened to her. The intercom crackled, and a new voice came on. Taylor Medina, a crisis counselor. She gave a helpline number for any student in distress. I thought about Eden and how she probably needed this help months ago, but no one offered it then. Another update hit the email chain, and my stomach dropped. It was audio recordings of phone calls where kids pretended to be Cole, speaking to Eden late at night. You could hear Eden crying, saying she wanted to die, while the kids tried not to laugh. In one recording, Eden told Cole he was the only one who understood her anxiety, and there was muffled giggling in the background. The girl in front of me suddenly lurched forward and vomited on the classroom floor. I couldn't tell if it was fear from the lockdown or disgust at what she'd just seen. The smell made others gag and move away. Our teacher stopped trying to control the class and sat at her desk with her head in her hands. The police radio chatter outside our door got louder. Bianca Rubin's voice said they'd established a perimeter around the media lab. She reported the subject had barricaded the door and wasn't responding. I pictured Sunshine inside, making sure every secret came out before she could be stopped, uploading everything she'd collected since learning what they did to Eden. My phone kept lighting up as the email chain grew. There were chat logs going back 3 months, showing how they planned every detail of the catfishing, fake profiles, fake backstories, even fake friends, to make Cole look real. It was deeply planned and involved far more people than anyone thought. Even kids I'd considered decent had shared Eden's photos in group chats, mocking how desperate she seemed for affection. The live stream showed more police arriving, setting up a command post in the main hallway. Parents were gathering outside, but no one was allowed in or out. Through all this, I kept thinking about how Sunshine had warned me, giving me a chance to keep my family safe. She had chosen to trust me, even while planning all of this, and now I was stuck watching it unfold. The girl next to me finally let go of my arm and started crying hard. She kept saying she hadn't realized it was this bad, that she thought it was just a prank, but her name was probably in those emails too. Everyone who laughed, watched, or ignored was being exposed. My phone buzzed again. My dad calling from his office downtown. I declined and shoved it back in my pocket. There was no way to explain that I'd known and tried to intervene. The weight of my 6 a.m. call to the administrator felt like a stone in my stomach now that I saw how much Sunshine had collected. Another notification popped up, a new attachment in the email chain. This one was a timeline. Sunshine had compiled showing every single thing that happened to Eden over 3 months, every fake text, every cruel joke in the hallways, every moment Eden was breaking down while kids watched and laughed. There were screenshots from private group chats, videos kids thought they'd deleted, even security camera footage of Eden crying alone. Each entry had dates, times, and names. The principal's voice returned over the intercom, papers shuffling in the background. He said law enforcement had control of the situation, but the lockdown would continue until further notice. His voice cracked. I realized his own emails were probably in the leaks, the ones where he acknowledged Eden's situation but did nothing. Kids around me started frantically deleting things from their phones. The girl who organized the winter formal, where Eden waited outside for 4 hours, was crying so hard she couldn't breathe. She grabbed her friend's arm, saying it wasn't that bad, and they were just having fun, but her friend pulled away and wouldn't look at her. Through the thin walls, the police radio grew louder. EMT Powers was talking about evacuating hallways next to the media lab as a precaution. They were taking Sunshine seriously. Even though I doubted she planned to harm anyone physically, she wanted to ruin them the way they ruined Eden. Then the email chain pinged with a new folder that made everyone gasp. It was labeled Faculty Failures, full of screenshots from a private teacher group chat. They were joking about Eden and calling her attention-seeking. Administrators' emails showed them deciding not to investigate because it would be too much hassle. Mrs. Carver's name wasn't there, which didn't surprise me. She'd been the only one who actually tried to help Eden. Someone pounded on a door down the hallway, shouting something we couldn't make out. Everyone in our room pressed closer together against the wall. Even the kids named in the emails were huddling with the rest of us now, fear overtaking shame. My younger brother texted me that someone in his class was having a panic attack. Their older sibling was one of the main people who had pretended to be Cole. Reality was sinking in. Sunshine hadn't just exposed bullies for a day, she'd destroyed their reputations permanently. This would follow them to college, jobs, everything. Then everyone's phones buzzed at once with a new post from Eden, her first since the winter formal. It was only 3 words. Finally, the truth. The comments were already in the hundreds. Kids from other schools condemning what ours had done to her, sharing and tagging news outlets. The police radio crackled again. They were preparing to breach the media lab. I found myself hoping Sunshine would surrender peacefully. Despite everything, I still cared about the girl in bright yellow cardigans, who could make a hallway feel lighter. I could understand why she did this, even if it was wrong. The school had failed Eden, and they had failed Sunshine too by ignoring her when she must have begged for help. Now she was making sure no one could ever look away again. The police would probably arrest her, and she'd face charges, but Eden's truth was now public. Every person who laughed, watched, or participated had been exposed. Parents would see it. Future employers would see it. Everyone would know what they'd done. The girl next to me was still crying, but now it was different. She wasn't afraid of the lockdown anymore. She was terrified of going home to her parents, who would see she'd been sharing Eden's desperate messages with laughing emojis. Her life as she knew it was over, and we all knew it. Through it all, I kept thinking about how Sunshine had trusted me. Out of everyone, she picked me to warn. Even though I'd betrayed that trust by calling the administrator, she still made sure I knew to get out before it happened. That unknown number that texted me was probably someone she'd asked to warn me one last time. She was still trying to protect the people she thought were decent, even while exposing everyone else. Then the Wi-Fi dropped to 0 bars. Someone said the IT guy was trying to shut the network down. It was far too late. The emails had already sent, and kids were using cell data to keep sharing everything. The damage was done and spreading across social media. Above us, footsteps pounded on the 3rd floor, followed by the scraping sound of desks being dragged. Our teacher yelled for everyone to get under their desks, which felt pointless. We all knew Sunshine wasn't going to harm anyone physically. My phone buzzed with one last text from the unknown number. "She wants you to know Eden is safe at home today." That hit me hard. Of course, Sunshine made sure her sister wouldn't be here to see the chaos. Even while exposing everyone who hurt Eden, she was still protecting her dot. The student beside me showed a live stream from a classroom in the East Wing. The footage captured police leading someone out in handcuffs, but it wasn't Sunshine, it was Travis. Reports said he tried to leave his classroom to confront her, and officers detained him immediately for breaking lockdown. Soon after, The principal's voice came over the intercom, announcing controlled evacuation of the East Wing. That suggested Sunshine was contained somewhere nearby. Our wing, however, was to remain in lockdown, leaving us with no choice but to keep reading the relentless stream of emails appearing on our phones. Someone pulled up Eden's old Instagram, and the phone made its way around the room. The photos showed her smiling with Sunshine at the beach last summer, excited about starting high school and hopeful about making friends. Seeing her so happy and full of promise before everything happened pushed the girl next to me into heavy tears. My phone lit up again with a message from the unknown number. "Thank you for trying to stop this peacefully." My stomach sank. Sunshine clearly knew I had contacted the administration that morning. She went ahead with her plan anyway, but still acknowledged that I'd tried a different path. Outside, sirens grew louder as more police and emergency vehicles arrived. Though no injuries were reported, the sound made the situation feel final. There was no reversing what had unfolded. The email chain buzzed again with a new attachment, a compilation video documenting Eden's humiliation. It included hallway footage of students laughing at her, cafeteria clips of food being thrown, and screenshots of online abuse. The scale was shocking, not just in how cruel it was, but how many people participated. Even students I once considered decent. From the hallway, police chatter confirmed they had made contact with Sunshine and were negotiating. I imagined her still inside the media lab, calmly ensuring every last file was distributed before authorities intervened. A text from my mom came next. She was on her way to pick me up once parents were allowed in. I stared at her words, knowing I could never fully explain how I saw this coming, why I warned the school, or why Sunshine went ahead regardless. Then the principal's voice returned, weary and broken, to announce the threat had been contained, and evacuation would soon begin. Seniors first. His tone suggested he already knew his position was lost, exposed by the leaked emails that revealed months of inaction. Nearby, another student showed me posts from Facebook where parents demanded staff be fired and investigated. Comments were spreading fast, with outsiders predicting national headlines. When our turn for evacuation came, the atmosphere was eerily silent. The girl responsible for orchestrating Eden's humiliation at winter formal tried to walk beside me, but I couldn't pretend ignorance of what she'd done. As we filed out, I saw the media lab door battered and wrapped in police tape. There was no Sunshine in sight, only a photo taped to the wall, Eden in her formal dress, waiting in the cold that night. Outside was chaos. Squad cars, news crews, and frantic parents. I spotted my mom's car, but also noticed Eden with her family near an ambulance. They weren't physically harmed, but were being checked by counselors. Taylor, the crisis counselor, approached me with another staff member, saying they needed to speak with anyone who had recent contact with Sunshine. I knew then I would have to tell them about our bleacher conversation and her warnings. Before reaching my mom, I saw Sunshine. Officers led her out in handcuffs, still dressed in black. Her expression was calm, as if she'd achieved exactly what she intended. For a second, our eyes met across the lot. She mouthed something that looked like "thank you," before being placed in the police car. I couldn't be sure if she meant thank you for trying to stop her, or for at least being one of the few who treated her with decency. The next 3 days blurred into police interviews, therapy sessions, and non-stop media coverage. Sunshine faced charges of trespassing, threats, and cybercrimes, yet many online called her a hero for exposing what had happened to Eden. My phone flooded with messages asking if I knew what she was planning. I kept repeating that I had tried to stop her, but nobody seemed interested in that detail. News outlets ran constant segments on our school, cyberbullying, and administrative negligence. Parents demanded resignations, and lawyers discussed lawsuits. I met with EMTP Powers several times as investigators pressed me for details about what Sunshine had told me. They kept asking if she'd mentioned violence or weapons. I explained again and again. She had never intended physical harm. The damage she caused was social and digital, but permanent. My mom arranged therapy, insisting that witnessing this would have long-term effects. When the therapist asked how I felt about Sunshine, I didn't know how to respond. She trusted me with her plan. I betrayed that by alerting the school, but in some way I might have protected people from worse. Meanwhile, Eden's parents spoke publicly about the need for stronger protections against online harassment. They avoided mentioning Sunshine by name, though it was clear their grief extended to both daughters. Travis's family tried to paint him as a victim, but the leaked messages showing him bragging about Eden's pain told another story. The school announced the arrival of grief counselors, anti-bullying experts, and new zero-tolerance policies. But for many, it felt far too late. Eden's case spread across the country, with students and parents sharing similar stories of unchecked bullying. A student in Texas even launched a petition to make cyberbullying a felony, gathering over 100,000 signatures in 2 days. At home, my younger brother kept asking why Sunshine had chosen to warn me. I had no answers. All I knew was that for some reason she believed I was worth sparing. By Friday, the principal resigned, taking responsibility for systemic failures. 2 administrators and several teachers followed. This was just the start of the fallout from Sunshine's exposure. The following Monday, Eden returned to school. She wore Sunshine's yellow cardigan and walked through the front doors with 2 counselors at her side. The halls went silent. Students who once mocked her couldn't meet her eyes. The girl behind the catfishing turned the other way to avoid her. Later that day, Travis attempted to approach Eden, but a counselor intercepted him. Without his friends around, he looked diminished. By lunch, news spread that he and a dozen others had been called to the office. Their parents arrived soon after, visibly upset. Investigators interviewed everyone mentioned in the leaked files. By week's end, Travis and his group were expelled for harassment and endangerment. 3 teachers, including the one who mocked Eden at winter formal, were also dismissed. The administration overhaul was swift. Assemblies on online cruelty and digital responsibility were mandatory, with experts citing statistics linking cyberbullying to suicide. I began weekly sessions with Taylor, who challenged me to confront my guilt. She reminded me that Sunshine was not entirely wrong in seeking justice, but not entirely right either. Both truths existed. The school board implemented what they called the Eden Protocol: mandatory reporting, immediate intervention, anonymous tip lines, and peer support systems. It was a step forward, but felt both overdue and insufficient. Meanwhile, Sunshine's trial dominated headlines. Her defense argued she was driven to extremes by systemic neglect. Prosecutors countered that no personal grievance justifies taking justice into one's own hands. Each day, the courtroom showed her in formal clothes, looking older and more worn. Her face carried none of the brightness she once had, only the weight of what she'd chosen to do. The judge eventually offered Sunshine a plea deal: 2 years probation with mandatory therapy instead of jail. She explained that while the actions couldn't be condoned, the provocation was clear. Sunshine accepted immediately, leaving court with her parents, while reporters called out questions she didn't answer. Eden soon created a support group that met every Wednesday in the school library for students who had been bullied online. I attended the 3rd meeting, not because I had been bullied, but because I wanted to understand how we had allowed things to spiral so badly. Eden led the group with a calm strength, much like Sunshine before everything changed. She made people feel heard without forcing them to say more than they wanted. 6 months later, I saw Sunshine again, while she was doing community service at a grocery store. She looked healthier, with more color in her face, and when she noticed me, she gave a genuine smile. We spoke briefly about small things like the weather and school, carefully avoiding the events of that day. She mentioned Eden was improving with the help of therapy twice a week and had made genuine friends through the support group. The sisters were rebuilding their relationship, though it would never return to what it once was. Before I left, Sunshine gently held my arm and said she didn't regret exposing the truth, but wished she had found another way. I told her I understood, because sometimes the system feels so broken that breaking it more seems like the only option, even if you know it's wrong. Not long after, the school hosted a large assembly on digital kindness. Guest speakers shared messages about empathy, and Eden gave the final speech. She stood at the podium in Sunshine's yellow cardigan and spoke about forgiveness and the role of bystanders who had done nothing while she suffered. Her steady voice made half the room cry. When her eyes landed on those of us who had stood by, the guilt hit me all over again. That summer, I started spending time at a coffee shop near the community college, where I met a girl named Mia from Westfield High. She knew nothing about our school's scandal, which felt refreshing. We dated for 3 weeks, going to movies and talking about normal things, before I finally told her the truth. One night, in her car, I explained Eden's catfishing, Sunshine's revenge, and how I called the school to stop someone I cared about. Mia listened quietly, then held my hand and told me I had done the right thing. She said she would have made the same call, and hearing that helped ease some of my guilt. Meanwhile, Travis's parents hired a high-profile lawyer and tried to sue the school for failing to protect his privacy, claiming the district should have stopped Sunshine from accessing and sharing those messages. The judge dismissed the case in a single hearing, ruling the school wasn't liable for student misconduct. Local news covered it, showing Travis's father angrily telling reporters his son was a victim too. Within 2 months, the family sold their house and moved to Arizona, where fewer people knew the story. Sunshine completed her community service at a food bank and animal shelter by summer's end. Eden told me her sister had enrolled in online college courses since she couldn't return to our school. She was studying psychology and social justice and earning strong grades. Most of her time was spent studying or volunteering, and their mom said she seemed more focused than ever. The next school year, Eden surprised everyone by running for student body president as a junior. Her campaign posters featured her in one of Sunshine's yellow cardigans with the slogan "Kindness and Accountability." Many students voted for her, either out of respect or guilt. She won by a wide margin and spoke about ensuring no one else endured what she had. She expanded the support group into a larger initiative, creating a nonprofit where students taught middle schoolers about online safety and empathy. They earned state grants and even an award from the governor for youth leadership. I helped occasionally with small tasks like setting up chairs or running the projector. Senior year felt strange. I was the kid who knew Sunshine's plan. Some students avoided me, labeling me a snitch, while others thanked me for preventing something worse. Even teachers looked at me differently, unsure if I was a hero or a betrayer. I focused on school and college applications, trying not to dwell on it. On graduation day, I walked the stage knowing I'd never fully escaped the shadow of what happened, but also feeling at peace. My parents were proud, and Mia was there to cheer me on. That was enough. 2 years later, while studying in my dorm, I received a text from Eden. Attached was a photo of her and Sunshine smiling outside a campus building. The message read, "Sunshine got accepted to law school with a scholarship for victim advocacy." Eden explained her sister wanted to use the law to help people the right way this time. Looking at that picture reminded me of everything that day taught us: silence makes you complicit, kindness has limits when ignored, and justice and revenge often look the same depending on perspective. Sometimes I still dream of Sunshine in her yellow cardigans, brightening the room. Other times I remember her dressed in black, exposing the truth in her own way. Both versions were real. Both were driven by her need to protect Eden. What happened to Eden broke something in her sister, but she redirected it into advocacy and purpose. Eden turned her trauma into leadership. Travis and his family chose to run from their shame. The rest of us were left to live with our choices. That Thursday changed everything, for those of us who were there, and for those who only heard about it. That's the story for today. Thanks for spending this time with me. If it gave you something to think about, stick around and subscribe. We'll keep sharing stories that matter.